Welcome to Three Takes. I'm Ishana.
I'm Minali.
I'm Mona.
Three women.
Three generations.
One family, unpacking the questions we all ask.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast and continuing to listen to us and our generational differences and all the conversations that we've had. We've really enjoyed listening to your feedback and putting content out there. I can't believe 2026 is here already. It seems like 2025 just flew by. I don't know, how do you all feel about 2026 this coming year?
I always feel like when the new year hits, I'm like, ooh, yay, like a new leaf, new goals, new resolutions. But I think like resolutions is also just like a buzzword people always use in the new year. So as we start the new year, maybe that's the topic that we can talk about today in terms of how to make New Year's resolutions really stick.
How do you see resolutions, Noah? Because I feel like I'm sure with your background, like you've told us before that you see resolutions different from goals, different from habits. I think it would be kind of informative if you taught us a bit about how you see differences in all three of those things, because I tend to overlap them.
The way I see resolution is like resolution is more, at the highest level that, okay, I want to become healthy. But then your goal is, okay, well, I want to maybe run 2 marathons. And then your habit becomes, okay, I'm going to start with 3 miles, then 5 miles, the training, that's become your habit. So the way I see 3 are different way. The resolution is at the higher and the goal is in the middle. And then your habit is your action. You guys were just talking about it, how January comes, the resolution and all. So before resolution comes is the reflection and then make the resolution.
Dada, what about you? How do you look at resolutions?
Unintentionally, I think, do the method Mama was talking about in terms of reflecting before setting a goal or resolution. So I'm someone who likes to keep journals. I like to have an entry at the end of the year just talking about like my wins, my losses of the year, like kind of a rosebud thorn situation. Like, what am I looking forward to in the next year? So I do reflect before coming up with new goals and new resolutions for the year. And then the way that I've divided resolutions actually is from different areas of life. So I tend to do it like professional versus physical health versus like financial health, social. I tend to divide my goals into different buckets.
So you said goals. So do you tend to intermix resolutions and goals into one bucket as opposed to how Mama said that resolutions is more of the higher level than goals and habits?
I do, yeah. I tend to see, I guess the way that I would define the resolutions is like improving all these different areas of physical health, mental health, social health. Like those I think are the overarching resolutions. I haven't thought about it this way before, but like hearing Mama's definitions, like I think those are probably the larger resolutions. But then within each of those, it's setting certain goals of how to better my health in these different areas.
How about you, Shana? How do you do it?
Yeah, I think my attitude towards resolutions is a little bit vague in the sense of I think I look at things as I'm going to manifest that this year I'm going to travel the world. Like it's like very almost, I guess, high level if I'm thinking about the way Mama had described it, or like a resolution could be that I want to have boundaries at work. But I don't necessarily think I'm like realizing like how am I actually going to get there. That's why I think for so many people like sometimes resolutions stick and sometimes don't. And so I think I look at it more of like what's something that I want to do this year that I maybe didn't achieve last year.
In some ways, what Mama is saying is in order to achieve the resolution, like you kind of have to become more granular in terms of defining the habit that will get you to the goal that will then get you to the resolution. Maybe this is too nuanced of a conversation, but it just seems like, Ishana, for you, like boundary setting is such a broad...
It's so vague. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so it's like, what is the actionable step, aka habit, that you would
Yeah.
need to incorporate to make that happen.
Yeah, and I feel like so many people, like I'm thinking about your classics example where everyone signs up for gym membership the month of January because they want to be fit. And then you see that plateau by March because people just get hyped to work out. But are they actually, was there a goal created that then there was a habit that could be actionable towards that?
You're absolutely right? Because what happened is that you see in the new year, everybody suddenly starts, like you're talking about the gym membership, or they will have a lot of resolution. And then even the data says that by the time you come, there are so many people drop out. And actually the gym I go, they always also say that our January, February is peak. And then after they see such a major decline of the membership, right? So what happened is that a lot of time people, because it's a new year, they just define the resolution. And I have failed in many of them too, because I think many times I didn't do intentionally. I just did it because I said, okay, my friend has this, so I will just partner with that. Or some family member is doing it, so I did it. But over the period of time, I realized that actually I need to do something intentionally. So that's where the layer before I was talking about the reflection is important before even we decide the resolution. To me, the reflection is the first step, and resolution is like more like a aspiration, and goal is more like a direction, and habit is your action. So that's how I see it. And I used to do my resolution like how Minali was saying, financial, personal, and professional and all that. But I think now I have changed a little bit to the different themes. So for example, now I'm looking more for themes like courage, connection, and clarity. So I'm doing things in these buckets. So I think we have to figure out what works for everybody.
Yeah, and maybe to talk in depth a bit more about some of the research that's out there. So there's a Forbes article that we will link to the show notes. It's called Top 3 Reasons New Year's Resolutions Fail and How Yours Can Succeed. It's by Kathy Caprino. But in it, she cites a U.S. World and News report that basically talk about how 80% of New Year's resolutions fail, mostly by the end of February, so not even 2 months. So I think it would be really interesting for us to maybe expand on maybe a goal, a habit, a resolution, however you want to say it, that we set out to do, but ultimately we failed at. And what can we learn from that?
Yeah, I'm happy to start us off. So every year, I feel like I have this resolution that never gets achieved, and you guys are probably going to understand why it's never achieved, but I do not like to read. For me, reading is something that I have to force myself to, because honestly, I fall asleep. To me, reading means that I can sleep. And so I always have this resolution of I want to read one book a month, and it's been a failed resolution every year, and I think going to that article that you had mentioned, it's always been so vague. It's I want to read one book a month, but it's okay, does that mean I'm going to read 10 pages a day? Does that mean I need to carve out time in the middle of the day? I have had no, goals, and my habits have been very inconsistent. So I think that's kind of why I have failed in that resolution over the years.
Okay, this is going to be really nerdy. I was a psych major in college, but there's this concept by this famous dude named Ivan Pavlov where they talk about classical conditioning. And in this experiment, dogs could basically be trained to salivate when they heard a bell because they would associate the bell with food. And I think, Ishana, in your case, because you associate reading with sleep, it's
it genuinely makes me fall asleep.
Well, then that's the thing. It's you have to kind of break that association, I think.
I know.
In order to even be able to set a goal like that. I like the idea of, okay, if you were to say in the lunch break, 10 minutes, I'm going to read whatever it is, a news article, a book. I think it took you 6 months to get through Fourth Wing, right?
Yeah.
So it's if you break the association of the reading with sleep, I think you might have better success, but
I do agree with that. But can someone else talk about their failed resolutions besides me?
Yeah, I think I can talk about it. So I had made a resolution that when I get up, I'm not going to be on my phone. So I did it for a 1 week really good. I was very proud of it. I wrote in my journal. And the second week I said, oh, you know what? I really need to check what if my kids message or my mom's message and all that. So I start doing it. And then from that message, I start going on Instagram and the Facebook. And then I said, well, if you're picking the phone, might as well just look at everything. And so I think I could not keep consistent with the resolution I had that be away from the technology as soon as you get up.
Yeah, it seems like from one of the reasons that why resolutions fails that Kathy Caprino talked about, it's that all or nothing mentality that because you had already divulged a little bit, you were like, well, at that point, like, what's the point? So you didn't really have that like stamina to be like, oh, okay, yes, maybe I like fell through the cracks a little bit and now I can backtrack. But you kind of were like, nope, I already did it. I failed. So let's just go back into it.
Ishana, this is such a good point, what you just said, that, a lot of times we fail because it's all or nothing, right? So if we think about it that, not necessarily that the goal, it's not a linear, right? You can adjust, you can break down, okay, I'm like, for me, like, which right now is working, that when I get up, I look at the phone, but I'm going to look at only two things, my mom's message and my kids. So I have to very specific rather than saying I'm not going to even pick up my phone. So I adjusted that goal and I think it did work for me.
Yeah, I can talk about like two failed goals that I had for last year. So one was I had told myself I would only check my emails 3 times a day on my phone. But what I found, which was really difficult to do, is because my commute is really long and because like sometimes I feel like I'm behind on work, I definitely check my phone way more than that. And I'll just like respond to messages right then and there as something to get done, as opposed to like bringing my work home with me sometimes. Mm-hmm. So instead of necessarily saying, oh, I'm only going to check my email 3 times a day, setting actual like time restrictions as opposed to number of how much I'm checking the email. Like after 6 p.m., for example, I'm not going to check. I think that is what would probably been a more realistic goal. I think I probably had the wrong goal there. Or actually, I don't know, would you call that a goal or a habit?
I think it was a goal, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and habit was your action, right? And that happened like to, I think, everyone. But I think if we build room for adjustments and if we do reflection and if we reset, rather than not doing anything, I think we have to reflect and reset because I don't see as a failure. I see that we were evolving.
I think also that what you had said was you use this word reality when we get into the new year and we form these like grand, vague resolutions. We also don't match that with what is like a realistic thing to do. I can say that I want to read a book every month, but is that actually a realistic goal that I can do, as opposed to being like, I want to read for 10 minutes a day. And it can be anything, whether it's the news, whether it's an audio book. So I think it's also, you have to, in that reflection that Mama was talking about, you also can't get like carried away with like a new year, new me. Like you have to think about what are the actual like limits and boundaries you have with some of these resolutions.
No, that's a good point. My second failed, I would say, resolution was I was going through my journal and it's just like really funny to see like how you are a year ago compared to now. Just life has changed so much. But one of my goals was to join the 5 a.m. club, meaning wake up at 5 a.m.
That I can tell you right now was probably not
That's a very lofty
for
goal, right? But I will say it's like the days that I work, I wake up at 6 a.m. anyways. So I was like, oh, okay, like 5 a.m. shouldn't be that big of a deal. Like I can get my workout in and then start my day fresh and ready to go.
That's a huge deal. 5 a.m. versus 6 a.m.
No, I know, right? Because then that means you kind of have to like sleep early. You just have to change so many habits to make that specific goal happen. And I did it actually for a little bit. Like I remember I would go to my solid core classes at 5 a.m., which meant actually I would have to get up at 4:30. Like I would do this 2 times a week kind of thing. But then I found that I would have to compensate like the next day. Like I would actually like sleep even later, 7 a.m. type thing. So it's like that actually wasn't a realistic goal at all. And even though it sounds ideal, like, oh, I'm going to start my day so productive, in reality, I don't think that was the right decision for me in my current lifestyle.
Yeah. And probably because you are somebody who likes to sleep till later and work till late, right? So for them to adjust that, so maybe you had made the goal which was little harder. So like if you would have done a little bit more realistic, like 6:30, 6 maybe, then I think that's why it is important to ask why we want to do this. So I remember if I'm sitting too much on the couch, a lot of time I will say, oh my God, like, I'm being so lazy. Let me just go and take some steps and walk. So I will tell myself, I want to walk because I'm being lazy sitting on the couch. But when I started seeing that when I go for a walk, I really like it because I see outside, I watch people's yard, the flowers, the bird noise or other things. So I think when I shifted my mindset, oh, I was being lazy, that's why I have to walk, versus the walk is making me feel good, that inspired me to stick more towards my goal of walking versus when I will be on more of negative, well, I got to do it now because I have been sitting for 2 hours.
In summary, what I've learned from our failed stories is a couple of things. Mama, you were kind of talking about that there was this all or nothing mentality that you had. For me, it was setting very vague goals. And for them, that it was not aligning reality into your resolution. So I think knowing that those are some of the reasons resolutions fail, I think it would be good now to shift into what has actually worked for us in terms of getting these resolutions to actually stick. And I think, Mama, it would be nice to hear from you, just because I'm thinking of one of the resolutions that you had told us most recently, that for October, you are not going to do any desserts or any sweets, which is like a pretty lofty goal, given that October is full of Diwali and holidays, trick-or-treating, all of these things. So I'd love to hear like your strategy in terms of how you really stuck to that.
Yeah. So I think the dessert thing I did in October, and I did intentionally because I knew that there will be a lot of desserts. A couple of months back, I was in a social get-together, and one of my close friend, and she and I are that close, she will always tell me, like, because I love to eat, as you guys know, but that I have been eating a lot of desserts. And in one of the parties, she told me that I saw you, that you went 5 times and took cake pieces, and every time you said, oh, who made it? It's so delicious. Mm-hmm. So is it a sign? What are you doing with? Why are you eating so much sugar?
I'm glad that you have like friends who can keep you in check like that, though.
Yes, yeah. She's my close friend. She can really literally tell me and correct me. So she told me that. And it made me really think that why I was not able to control. I knew it, but I just could not control. And I also felt when I went for my yearly checkup, I thought my sugar has increased compared to what it was before. So I said, I have to make a commitment. And I knew that if I say I'm not going to do the whole year, I'm not going to do it. The resolution doesn't have to be New Year. It can be any time. So I picked the month of October because I knew there will be a lot of desserts. I did not say that I will have no sugar because I know different fruit, everything has a sugar. But I said I will control dessert. So I did that. And in the whole month of October, every time dessert, I will go and watch around what all dessert are there because I didn't want to really control the temptation. I wanted to really work on that. It's okay to go around and see what is there and everything. But I am so proud of myself that whole month of October, I did not touch it because I was intentional. I was worried about my sugar level getting that high. And then also, I thought I'm going to just try a small 30 days habit if I can do it or not.
And I think that's a good point. So one, that's really impressive that you were able to do that, because I know you had asked me if I would also like want to do that with you. And I said no.
I also was like, I am good. No, thank you.
But did Papa or Dad, did he also do it with you?
Well, he said he did it. If you ask him, he said, yeah, he didn't eat in the month of October. But many times in the gatherings I saw, he was taking like, I said, no, I'm just taking a small bite. But to me, small bite is still trying desserts. But in his definition, he did not eat desserts in October. So it depends who you talk to.
Okay, that's funny. But I love Papa. That's not surprising, to be honest. No, but I heard a lot of very tactical things, I think that would help me and even the listeners is, I think the biggest thing is you did not say, I'm cutting out desserts, period. You were like, I'm going to do 30 days. So that's challenging, but realistic at the same time. And then I think it goes back to the reflection. Like, you're doing this because you want to continue to stay healthy. And you know that October is the opportunity to do it. So you had the reflection. It was a very actionable habit that you did, and you're very intentional about it in that 30-day time frame.
That's correct. And I think dividing the goals in a smaller piece chunks, I think has a better success till it becomes the habit. I can give an example at our work. We used to do 60, 90 days challenge. And I think that worked so good. It will that people at the work, people have that, accountability partner. They will say, okay, they're going to read 10 books. They're going to walk with that. And it was just so nice to see most of the people, if they are past 30 days, they continue for 60 and 90 days also. So I think because the sense of accomplishment, so if you do from 30 days, then you extend to 60 and 90 days, because it takes time to become something habit.
Yeah. Then what about for you? Have there been tactics that you have felt actually work in terms of setting goals or resolutions?
Yeah, so I would say a big lofty goal that I had 2024 was to do a half Ironman, to do like something really challenging fitness-wise. I happened to choose a half Ironman for that. And this is coming from someone who had not done more than a half marathon before. And that's obviously a very lofty goal. And I wanted to do it within 6 months' time. So I would say having someone holding me accountable and guiding me through that was how I was able to accomplish that goal. I hired a coach who would give me daily workouts to do, and it would track on my Apple Watch so he could see if I was doing it or not. And we would meet once every couple of weeks just to talk through where are we. And so we would have interim goal setting as well, which I think is really helpful because you can't just one day just get up from your couch and do endurance training like this, right? So I would say having an accountability partner, whether that's a coach, whether that's a friend, that was really helpful for me in terms of accomplishing that goal that I wanted. It also required a lot of self-discipline because the coach is not doing the daily work for me. He's guiding me. But I do think having him there, in the background, just was really helpful.
How about you, Ishana?
I think some of the tactics that I have used, there's two that come to mind that are different than what you have said because I've used both of your guys' tactics as well. One is that there's always resolutions. There's more than one goal I typically have or resolution I have. I write down what is the priority. Is the priority to read 10 minutes every day? Because that's the goal I will put more weight on. Or is the goal that I want to train for a marathon this year? So I think understanding that every resolution I have cannot be weighted equally because everyone's busy and everyone has a life. So sometimes there is that compromise and sometimes there's different priorities at different months or different phases of what you're going on where you might prioritize one resolution a little bit more. So I think that has helped some of my goals be a little bit more realistic. And then I think the second thing is it's almost like this 80-20 rule of I do let myself sometimes cave, but I'm able to kind of get back up. So for example, if I was doing that dessert thing, I would say, okay, my friend's birthday party is on a Saturday. That is going to be the one time I'm going to have cake. Mm-hmm. But that is not defining that I just failed the whole month of October. So I think I've really tried to focus on removing that all or nothing mentality.
That's really, really good. I think most of the time people just fail once or twice. They say, that's it. Why do we even bother to do it? I think if we shift that thought and say, okay, at least we were able to do, okay, next time how we can do even more, the consistency can be more.
I read a book called Atomic Habits. I think a lot of you have read as well. I have it sitting back here. Stop. I read the book.
Did you actually?
Yes, I had to read it.
Oh
for
my God, that was
class.
definitely going to be my talking point, and Ishana completely hijacked it, but okay.
No, I didn't.
Go ahead.
Okay, I know I said I don't read, but like I do read sometimes.
I'm actually shocked. Okay, go ahead.
It's literally sitting in the back of my
Actually,
apartment.
Ishana does read a lot more than that, but I know Minali has definitely read this.
Sorry to ruin your moment, but I was just going to say that one of the points in Atomic Habits by James Clear is that the focus on the system. Stop laughing. I'm trying to be serious.
Okay, keep going, guys.
Sorry. Okay, sorry.
No, now I lost my train of thought.
No, you're saying. So one of the points he brings up is focus on the systems.
Right. Rather than like being so fixated on like I need to read every day, focusing more on how am I doing it? And if I achieve it, great. If I don't, then at least there was like a system that I created to try and get there. But I will like to share the stage with you in terms of points that you want to bring up on Atomic Habits.
No. But I think like maybe expand a bit more about what you mean by system.
Yeah, so going back to the reading thing, right? So the system being that I have 10 minutes break here or there. So how am I going to use that 10 minutes? As opposed to I need to read every day. Because that goal then puts so much like pressure. But the system is more like when there's 10 minutes during my day, there are different things I can probably use that time for. And I'm going to try, when possible, to use that 10 minutes to read.
You have read that book too, right? So I think you want to talk a little bit about it.
I can talk I'll just expand on Ishana's point. It's okay. We can all read the same book. That's
No, but I think habits is a very important factor of how do we reach to our resolution to goals. So I think that's a good topic to discuss.
Well, like habit is, like you said, and just to emphasize the point again, it's the actionable step that allows you to like, get to the goal, to get to the resolution. So, Mama, to your point, like small habits are what can make a big difference, right? So one of the points in the book was just focus on getting 1% better each day, as opposed to like for your goal of not eating desserts in October, like you said, you didn't say like no dessert for the whole year. You had a very clear like timeline and goal in mind. And by setting a timeline or a deadline for yourself, I think that was more realistic. And that was like a small improvement, but probably made a big difference.
Yeah. And I feel good about it, right? That I stick to it. I think that accomplishment, the sense of that no, I can do it.
As we're going into the 2026 and thinking about our resolutions for this year, one of the points in the book that they talk about is creating a good habit, like what makes a good habit. And he talks about like you should make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. So there's 4 pillars really: obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. So maybe one of us can talk about like a goal that we have for 2026 and see if there's a way that we can create that goal into a habit that follows these 4 pillars. Do you want me to try it? And maybe you guys can help me carve it out in a way that would be realistic.
Yeah.
So as a mom, I want to be able to make sure that I keep up with my physical health too, because having an active lifestyle has been so important to me. But I think like trying to find time to work out with babies can be challenging. So maybe there's a realistic way that I can try to come up with a fitness goal for 2026 in a way that can fit these 4 pillars, right? So like, I don't want to have a marathon this year or anything, but let's just say I want to try to work out 150 minutes a week. So that's based on like cardiology guidelines to prevent like strokes and heart attacks. Okay, I want to try to incorporate 150 minutes of some kind of exercise a week. Does that seem like an obvious goal or habit?
Somebody who is so much into physical fitness and the workout, I think instead of saying I'm going to do triathlon, I'm going to do marathon, you realize that because with twins and with the little babies, you might not be able to make the goal what you did last year, but you still want to be fit. So you are making the goal which will work with your current lifestyle. So it's realistic also, and you are doing into a small habit.
So it sort of checks off the box for obvious.
Yes.
It's an attractive goal for me because
Yes.
I want to prevent heart attacks and strokes for myself. Check box. Is it easy?
So
that
that's-
part, I don't know.
That's a fine line because no goal is easy for anyone. Otherwise, that would be something that we already incorporate in our day-to-day life. I'm kind of thinking easy in the same vein as like realistic, of like, you are not saying I need to work out 5 days a week. You are saying 150 minutes a week. And that to me is doable, because maybe you're going to have to do 50 minutes one day and then 20 minutes another day. So there's a little bit of flexibility around that goal, though it would still need to be broken down in terms of like how you are actually going to do that. Because to me, it still seems just like you're trying to do 150 minutes, but like, does that mean you're going to go to classes? Does that mean you're going to wake up early? Does that mean you're going to do yoga at home? Does that count? So I think the details behind that is still a little vague to me.
And I think that's a good point, because so there's two things that I can do at home potentially. We have a treadmill, so I could always try to incorporate like a jog, let's say when the babies are napping or something, right? I could also always do a free YouTube video. And that's the other thing, like I know in our previous like fitness episode, that was like episode 3, I talked about, for me, like a good workout means like sweat, like feeling like I got like really high intensity cardio. I think that expectation I'm going to change, because I don't think I have to have that to necessarily get a good workout anymore. So yeah, even if I can do like a Pilates YouTube video, 20 minutes, I think that should count towards the 150 minutes.
Yeah, and I think, Minali, that's, having a realistic expectation is good, because we have talked in our fitness episode that depending on your current life situation, sometimes your expectation, whether it's your physical or other, you have to kind of evolve. You have to shift a little bit, and that can be a temporary phase. But in order to meet that goal, I think that shift is important.
So yeah, I think it's a work in progress. Like we're obviously just sort of brainstorming, and then the last pillar is satisfying. Like, yeah, I feel very satisfied after I do a workout. So I think it hits everything: obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. I have to work on the easy part a little bit more, I think, but I think this is a good starting point. Maybe we can end the episode by each of you talking about a goal that you have.
Yeah, I think one of my goal is to connect with my high school friends. So each month I want to connect and reach out to my high school friends, so total 12 in a year. And then I want to also be courageous. I really want to bring different topics in the podcast, also be courageous to build a community through the podcast where people support each other.
I think one of the main resolutions I have is being intentional with my time with my fiance. So there's a lot going on this year. We're planning a wedding. We are both going into new jobs and new careers, and we're also being long distance. And I think when we do have that time together, being very intentional and having goals in terms of when are we dedicating time towards our connection, when are we building times towards wedding planning, when are we doing times with other friends. So that is a big resolution I have that I'm working out in terms of how am I actually going to make that resolution actionable. I'd love if the listeners, if any of them have goals that they think hit these check marks, how you're able to identify and create those habits. We'd love to hear from you all as well.
Thanks for joining us on 3 Takes. If something we shared sparked a new thought or opened up a conversation with someone you love, we want to hear about it. DM us on Instagram at 3.takes, email us at connect@3takes.com, or visit us at www.3takes.com. And if this episode meant something to you, share it with another mother, daughter, or sister in your life. It's how we grow and keep the stories moving.